You're listening to Through Our Lens with the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance at Sacramento State, a club, organization, whatever, for disabled students, staff, and their allies to discuss and educate each other about disability-related topics, advocate on behalf of disabled students and the community, and to hang out together and just be a community.
So we want to be more recognizable to Sac State. So please join the conversation by following and messaging us on Instagram at Dana@SacState. It's DANA@SacState. Hi everyone, welcome to the 8th episode of Through Our Lens with the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance. This is a podcast where we have a conversation on disability. My name is Brian Tao and I'm one of the officers and the host of this podcast. Our topic today is going to be on universal design. I know last episode, we talked about universal design in a way. It was titled Friends, Disability, and the Environment. So when buildings don't consider universal design, it feels like the building isn't your friend, in a way like that. You don't feel comfortable to go in the building because it's not accessible. I mean, you can't. And also our next club meeting will be on this Friday, March 18th, where we will talk about disability and Sac State and how that is interrelated. So getting into the podcast, as always, it's going to be a very free-form format. So expect a conversation with many tangents, just like how a regular conversation would go. I'm here with the president and founder, William and Rian.
Hello.
So before we get into it, I wanted to talk about our presentation that Rihanna did about SSWD. It was really similar to our first club meeting, but this time we did it with graduate students who are pursuing their doctorate in educational leadership. And all of them are working professionals, professors, teachers, counselors. So Rian, so what did you think of it? It was cool, right?
Yeah, it was really great. The graduate students that we presented to were very chill and engaged. They had a lot of questions for us, and they were genuinely interested in our opinions and our answers. It was really nice to see that level of engagement from the future of these professions, especially because that sort of understanding and willingness to listen is sorely needed in a lot of those professional fields.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mostly, I guess most of the talking was done by you. I think it's because I wasn't really prepared to answer questions, to be honest. And your background is in disability, right?
Yeah, I kind of took over here and there. I apologize for that, but they didn't seem to mind.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was fine. I wasn't really prepared to talk, so I wanted you to talk a lot. Yeah, but I think that entire atmosphere was good. They asked us a lot of questions, and then they asked you to like your presentation and how you were joking.
They laughed at my jokes.
Yeah,
I appreciated that.
Yeah, it's definitely it's nice to have some assurance that the people who are going into this field are doing so with good intentions. Because we're going to talk about, I think, and we're going to continue, and we have talked about it, and we're going to continue to talk about it, the structural understanding of disability oppression, right? The sort of the way in which society generally is constructed in such a way as to be exclusive. But to combat that, we have to start, I think, with a baseline of people who want to solve that problem and are not so concerned with the values triaging, which leads us to perpetuating those problems. Start just having people be in enthusiastic support of at least the sort of maybe symbolic allyship that you get from just a one-off conversation is encouraging by itself. Not enough, but it's encouraging.
The other thing too is that there were several people in that class among the audience who were disabled themselves. Yeah. And one of them actually reached out to me afterwards, and it turns out she ran the program that I was in back in 2018 over the summer called the Youth Leadership Forum for students with disabilities, and I attended back in the summer of 2018, and it turns out she was one of the program coordinators, so I got to reconnect with her, and that was a lot of fun. she's doing some really great research for her doctorate, and I am looking forward to working with her on that and inviting the club to work with her on that, because I'm sure our club's members will be able to provide valuable feedback for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be really fun, I think. Yeah. Wait, what is that?
Small world. No.
I know, yeah, right?
That's crazy. Yeah, and I guess that thing was like in the Bay, right? Like around where you live, right?
No, it was actually at Sac State.
Oh, it was at Sac State.
Youth Leadership Forum.
Okay.
Since the pandemic started, it's been completely virtual, and it will continue to be completely virtual for this summer. But no, it was in Sac State in the dorms while it was in person, and we kind of got a sneak peek at the inner layout of Sac State while we were there too, which is really nice, considering that I was between high school and college when I first did that. By the way, it's the leadership forum for students who are seniors or juniors in high school. So if you know any young people who are around that age, either this year or next year, I would highly recommend that you point them in the direction of the Youth Leadership Forum for Students with Disabilities, aka YLF. It's an incredibly valuable experience, and it really helps you develop not only as a person and a leader, but also as a fellow community member, because the entire time you're surrounded by other people with disabilities. Like, you are as a majority in that situation, and it's such a fascinating and refreshing environment to be in.
Awesome. That's a really awesome program, I think. I wanted to talk about something else. There's this thing that we went to the University Disability Advocacy Committee, and there's a meeting about that. Can you explain about that, Rian?
Yeah, otherwise known as UDAC. It's a committee that's currently in the works here at Sac State to help ensure accessibility for disabled students and faculty on campus. They're going to do a lot of work in terms of making sure campus is accessible and enforcing those accessibility requirements. And I know one of the projects right now is making sure that every building has at least one accessible entrance, and that accessible entrance is connected to a fully accessible pathway. So that's one major thing. The members that are in it are also the ones behind the redoing of some of the walkways you might have noticed, where they put in new concrete and new yellow strips to help guide blind students who use the white canes or their guide dogs. So they've already done some good work on campus, and they're going to do even more right now. They are just renewing and editing their charge, aka it's a sort of miniature constitution / mission statement for communities. So they're going to bring their charge to the university senate and have it reviewed and approved in the next couple weeks. And then they'll be able to officially get down to business again.
Let's get down to business.
Let's get down to business. Yeah. I think last week we were talking about that. I was trying to talk about it and explain it, and how, like, I guess, like, news to men just makes like going around campus a lot easier because it's flatter. Like, to get to Tahoe Hall to Amador, like, usually there's like a big slope area right there. Like, do you know what I'm talking about, Rian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's that slope
I hate
area.
that slope.
Me too. But, like, I'm glad that there's like a new cement thing that's flat. And I like going there a lot more, because my chair is like leaning, and I'm leaning a little bit. It's a little scary sometimes.
Oh no, I hate going over sidewalks in my neighborhood for this specific reason, because the curb cuts for all the driveways some of them are so sharp that I feel like I'm gonna tip over because of the angle it's going at and the fact that I have to go over it sideways. Going up and down, straight up and down it, I don't mind, but going sideways on a slope is the worst feeling on the planet. And it makes me very afraid that I'll tip over. And, if I tip over and there's nobody around, I'm kind of stuck there, especially if my phone gets crushed by accident or something,
Yeah. Okay. So speaking about that, let's go into our topic, universal design.
Yeah, it ties in really nicely, actually.
Really nicely. I didn't really plan for that. So first, what the heck is universal design? So I found this on Wikipedia. It's the design of buildings, products, and environments to make them accessible to all people, regardless of age, disability, and so many other factors. And that's what universal design is all about. It has to be accessible for everyone.
Yeah, I mean that's the idea. I'll say as well that I have like I can do like a conceptual some conceptual hoop jumping with regard to universal design.
That's do your thing. Do your thing.
Okay, so cool, fine.
Just don't take too long though.
We're doing philosophy. If we imagine disability as just the thing that happens when you experience greater than normal danger or difficulty doing stuff, then great, and I say greater than normal statistically speaking, like there's a range of difficulty which non-disabled people by definition encounter when doing a thing. If you encounter greater than that level of that margin of difficulty and danger, you are disabled in that particular context on this view of disability. So whether that's because of like a medical condition or environment or the intersection thereof, it's usually the intersection thereof, that's what disability is, I think, conceptually. So we can imagine like universal design as the thing that happens when we take that to be a bad thing. Like when we say what we want to do is make sure that doesn't happen. That contextual way of encountering disability never happens anymore. Universal design is the ideal form. It's the achievement of that goal, hypothetically, which is to say that it might be impossible. Like you're never going to have a building that is designed in such a way that nobody encounters unusual levels of difficulty and danger using it, because there's no way to predict what all the variations of ways of getting built as a human being that can influence how you interact with an infrastructure. But yeah, you can get a lot closer to that than we tend to currently be. For one thing, you can put an elevator in the building if you want to approach universal design a little bit more effectively. As I found out just today, if you live on university housing at Sac State, you might live in North Village. And if you live in North Village, the odds are pretty good that you live in a building that just does not have an elevator. And it's not clear whether and to what extent people are being, placed into units that they can't even get to because they did the normal amount of due diligence and nobody told them that there's no elevator. Okay, so that's the general philosophical conception about universal design. It's the thing that you do when you want everyone to experience the normal margin of difficulty and danger when doing a thing, and for that obviously to be minimal most of the time. So with that conceptual thing out of the way, we have some idea of like what we're aiming at with universal design, and as we talked about it, we've kind of always been aiming toward that thing. We can get into like specifics as well. Incidentally, we have joining us another person from the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance, William Nguyen. Hello, William.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, hello.
We're doing the universal design one. Again, we keep doing this because the thing about universal design is you never have to stop talking about it because it's never going to happen. That's maybe being pessimistic, but there you go.
Something we'll forever be salty about.
Yes. Yeah, forever. We want things to be accessible, right? It's like if it's not accessible, we're going to talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of what I want to talk about right now. So if you're on a YouTube, you can see this, but if you're on kinginstitute.com, you can't. So what I'm about to share with you is a restaurant that I ate at today. It's in Rio Linda. It's called Boerwinkels, I guess. But essentially, it's like a drive-in kind of thing, and you can order at the window. And basically, there was a step like to kind of get to the window to kind of order, if that makes sense. And I couldn't order it like by myself, so I had to ask my dad to order it while kind of like yelling out my order, and that was really awkward. But I got my order. The food was pretty good, but I wish that there was a ramp. Where's the ramp?
I know.
Yeah, and especially because all the seating is on that concrete platform where there's only that step leading onto it, right?
Yeah, it sucks. And I ate like next to a trash can, kind of. But I ate like as close as to my friends and classmates as much as I can. But it does suck. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that really suck because it's you don't have like able to like go up there to with your family or friends. Yeah, you have to stand like stay under it. So it doesn't feel any experiences like that with everybody, and then you feel a little bit lonely sometimes.
Yeah, it does. I mean, like for me, like today, like I can't feed myself at all. So my dad was like next to me feeding me anyways. So I wasn't that lonely. But it would be nice to kind of eat with my friends, eat with classmates.
As much as you may love your dad, it's not the same as hanging out with your friends.
Yes, that's right.
Can I also mention just that, like, we'd love to I want to be the like voice of reason on issues like this and say, hey, you know, it's not necessarily or completely like the restaurant's fault that this kind of thing happens. It's but it kind of is. Like, here's the thing about restaurants. If you worked in food service, you'll be familiar with this. They, while purchasing and installing a ramp is a non-trivial expenditure if you're a private business. It is also true of private businesses, especially food service, that they spend who knows, honestly, how much money in food waste over the course of, say, a month. That is not a necessary expenditure. Getting the ramp is. So having a ramp like this is product of many different like structural factors, many social forces, power structures and hierarchies and stuff, capitalism. But it is also functional of just bad budgeting. So that's something to keep in mind. That is a failure of the restaurant as well as a failure of the society. At least it seems to be. It probably is, on my view.
The other thing too is that one argument I see people make in defense of restaurants like these is, oh, it's only one step. It's not that big of a deal. But that's exactly the point. If it's only one step, then that should be the easiest thing in the world to fix, right? All you need is a piece of plywood in order to get over that bump, right? At the very least, it would take a piece of plywood because it's big enough that a power wheelchair can't get over it, but it's small enough that you don't need a full actual ramp installed if you're low on budget. Literally, a piece of plywood is all it would take to fix it.
Yeah. Okay, where's the ramp? Where's the ramp?
Exactly. Where's the ramp?
Where's the ramp?
The ramp is at Home Depot.
Home Depot?
Absolutely.
Home Depot. Like, think about how before the building built, and they should design like that.
Yeah, but I think this restaurant is really old. It's in Rio Linda, and like development started really like I think in the 60s or the I guess 1910s. Yeah.
Okay,
so
that's too long ago.
Yeah, they probably didn't consider us at all, like wheelchair users or people.
They've had 30 years since the ADA passed to think about it, and they still haven't fixed it. So,
I mean, they could put like a wood ramp up there.
Yeah,
that's easier.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, I've scarcely built a thing in my life, but like, hire me to do it. I'll take $100 and like buy a ramp for you.
I have visited so many inaccessible homes from my relatives, mostly because, you know, when you buy a home, you don't think about making it accessible. My Uncle Bob actually started remodels to make his house more accessible for me. And I was actually able to get into his house with my normal wheelchair for the first time in years this past Thanksgiving, which was great.
Awesome.
But I'm used to dealing with inaccessible homes. And the reason I say a piece of plywood is all it takes is because that's literally all it takes. We've even used a ladder to get me into a home as a makeshift ramp. Like, it sounds dangerous, but it works, right? It works. You just use whatever works. And that was with like multiple steps, right? If it's just one step, put a piece of wood down. That's all you need. Keep a stack of wood inside the restaurant just in case somebody steals it and you go into work in the morning before you open, put a new piece of wood down. It's simple.
It's unbelievable.
I'm losing my mind over how simple of a fix it is.
No, it reminds me of my brother. He had to put like his shoes under the step, just one step, so I can like go up to the step. So it's really just a little thing that I can get up.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of thing is very difficult to like try to be understanding of, I guess, especially if you're somebody who's not super understanding, like in general, like me. But another thing to like also take into think about with like universal design, specifically of buildings, is that oftentimes the necessary like retrofitting that you would have to do, the necessary renovations, are considered to be prohibitively expensive per like the organization doing the building, or potentially doing the renovations. It was said in the from what I understand, who I understand to be like the head of University Housing Services at Sacramento State. I mentioned that several of the buildings in the North Village just do not have elevators in there, and it's not clear whether or not they have a process for not placing students who have mobility impairments on higher floors. That is the case, and yet the University Housing Director is telling us in the Student Academic Senate, the reason they're still like that is because it's just prohibitively expensive to install an elevator in a building like this.
You mean the university who drags in thousands and thousands of dollars of profit per year cannot afford to make their student housing accessible?
Well, that's another thing. It's University Housing Services is a separate organization from the Sacramento State University.
Why?
And I wonder if it's for that reason, so that they can limit the budget of the University Housing Services. No, I'm not kidding. It's a separate thing. It's attached to the university, but its budget and processes are different. Its personnel are different. I wish it weren't so, but yeah, you're basically it's not quite a private company, not quite the university. It's in between, and that's probably for the occlusive effect that it gets you.
The more I learn about how universities work, the more I just kind of want to drop out and encourage people to burn it down.
I mean, that would at least give us an excuse to build accessible buildings, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, exactly.
You're not wrong. But for the record, though, so we don't get sued or prosecuted or anything, do not burn anything down. I know the slogan, make it accessible or burn it down, is really popular, and we can't in good conscience endorse it literally because, crime. But for the record, don't actually commit any crimes, please. But I will not stop you if you want to drop out from college. That can be a viable pathway as well.
No crime involved.
Yeah, I mean, like it'd be great to kind of like tear things down and remake it so that it's accessible. But we can't do that. I mean, it's going to be illegal, but we can't do that.
Yeah, besides, the legality, what is it, a felony to commit arson? Besides the illegality of it, it's also not entirely practical, because if they don't have the funds to renovate it to make it accessible, they sure as hell don't have the funds to rebuild it to make accessible.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder as well about like grant programs that could undo the cost prohibition, but like then again, why would anybody allocate that money in a grant? What's in it for that person, that organization? But like make it accessible or burn it down. I don't know if anybody means that literally. I'm not sort of in those like social media circles.
You never know.
It's possible. But also oftentimes when we have like political slogans, and I notice this a lot on the left, you get an oversimplification that comes with that's necessitated by trying to make the slogan more popular. So we talk about like abolish the police or defund the police. That is kind of literal, but it's simplified. It's simplified from the actual like picture of what activists want to happen.
Yeah, there's more nuance there than that.
Yeah, there's more nuance to it than the slogan, or at least there should be, and it's sometimes taken as lacking that nuance. I can think as well about like the general conception about pride that has sort of emerged from queer activists over the decades. That like taken at face value, that conception of pride, it isn't clear that like holds together except as a political move, right? It's a counter narrative in response to the idea from the right that there's something to be ashamed of and being.
No, that's literally what it is. Actually, the first Pride was a protest. Yeah, it's completely political. Pride is political.
Yeah, and I think people on the inside, or people who are not on the inside maybe, but like at least reasonably well read on the subject, understand that. But it's oversimplified in that it's relatively easy for like the right to take that at face value and say, hey, look, they're endorsing this like conception of pride that doesn't make any sense, because you don't earn your sexuality, and if you do, why can't I be proud of being straight or whatever it is? There's ways of taking those like popular slogans and like turning them around to work against what they're for. And it's a reasonable worry that could happen with like make it accessible or burn it down.
Yeah.
So that is like a worthy qualification to make. Like it's not being literal, probably. And in fact, what we're trying to like advocate for is make it accessible or don't support it. Make it accessible by whatever means you can, like legally and legislatively speaking. One idea for which would be to have like grants from the state such that organizations like University Housing Services can do this retrofitting process that they need to do if they're going to have permanent housing in these buildings. And I don't know. So yeah, that's my tangent on like oversimplified political arguments.
So I guess like speaking about grants, I have an internship at Cal Fire, and I work with fire prevention grants. So we give grants to like communities, cities, and like neighborhoods, money to kind of like prevent fires, fire reduction, cutting grass down, adding new like technology to kind of help us when there's a fire. And like that, I guess that program should be similar to like the other like State Department. I forgot what there's a specific name for like disability, I guess the department that handles all those things. I think they should offer like grants, or like states should offer grants to kind of have new projects to improve accessibility.
Yeah, because there's the Department of Rehab, DOR, that is there for disabled individuals if they want to become independent employees. Their focus is mostly getting disabled people hired. They can also provide services to help you get driving if you wish to drive but currently cannot because the car isn't accessible or something. So there's support like that for disabled employees, however spotty and sketchy it may be. But there isn't support like that for employers, for institutions and buildings to help them be accessible and not have to worry about whether or not they'll face a lawsuit from a disabled person because their shit isn't accessible, right? There isn't a state level support like that for those more authoritative positions. And I feel like there should be. I feel like there should be support for ensuring accessibility on a larger scale rather than just on an individual case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I know for like fire prevention grants, we have like a lot of money like to kind of prevent fires. I mean, that is important too, like prevent fires, because we are in a fire season, like every like single day kind of.
These days, the whole year
Yeah.
is fire season. So fire year is pretty accurate, actually.
It is, but there is disability year every time because there is a problem with disability. Makes sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of knocked two of the topics out already with the housing accessibility and the restaurant accessibility.
Yes, but I have more stuff to add about housing. So like similar to so I guess like similar to like Rian, whenever I go to a relative's house, I always have to bring a ramp that like my dad makes. So to kind of get into my house, there's a ramp, a wooden ramp that he made like a couple years ago, and we bring that ramp to like places. So like say if my relative in Fresno, my uncle, he doesn't have a ramp in there, so I basically drive to Fresno and have my ramp in the car. And like if I forget that ramp, I don't know what to do. Yeah, that ramp is going to be really important. And mm-hmm.
So keep going. Keep talking.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, I have nothing else to say. It just gets really annoying that I have to care about ramps. That if I forget.
We actually have two metal portable ramps. One is a small one for like threshold steps, and the other's a big one for, those big several steps that you see in front of houses. Our house actually has ramps in the front and back that are built in to the house landscape because they did renovations when I was kind of in the latter half of my scooter phase where I was using a scooter pretty much full time. So they knew that they needed to make sure my scooter could get in and out of the house easily on my own. But when we're visiting relatives, if they're nearby, we bring our own ramps. But if we forget them, then well, that's when we need to use plywood. And luckily, my relatives are the type that would have plywood on hand for whatever reason. And
general purpose plywood.
When they're too far away, we end up not bringing the ramps with us and use a designated piece of something at the destination to help them get in. At my grandpa's house, which is like a 3-hour drive from home, he actually keeps one of the portable ramps at his house, so we just pull that out whenever we visit. But we can only use it on the front of the house because the back of the house is on like the side of a hill and there are too many stairs for the ramp to work. And then when we visit our friends in Oregon, those are the people we use the ladder with. They pull out this weird graded ladder thing and put one on each side to line up with my tires, and then I roll up full speed because if I go any slower, it'll get stuck in between the rungs of the ladder. So it's a little chaotic, but we make it work.
That's cool.
I'm noticing, and I'm sure this is like a thing that everyone else knows that I'm just now glomming onto, that there's always an element of like community and creativity to making stuff accessible at the sort of individual or organizational level when that happens, and that doesn't always happen. It isn't always possible. But so, I mean, and that's kind of to, I don't know, that's not a thing I would prefer to be the case, just because what it sort of amounts to is a greater difficulty or greater than normal difficulty and danger encountered not by the individual necessarily, but by like the family unit or like the restaurant or whatever it is. But so it's not ideal, but it is in some sense like inspiring, like, right, where we have these sort of systemic factors at play, but we almost always notice that like individuals within those factors are doing their best and innovating solutions to make things more accessible than they are.
To me, disability and community are inseparable to me personally, because I mean, if we were an independent species, if each one of us was a lone wolf, so to speak, and we weren't reliant on social constructs as a species, I'm pretty sure disabled people would have a much harder time than they do currently. Okay. But the thing that makes us human, that sense of community, that reliance on each other for survival, disability or not, that allows disabled people to thrive because it's okay to rely on each other for help. And that's why it's inseparable from me, because that means to me that disability is what makes us human. Disability is the symbol of that compassion and dedication that we have for each other, that willingness to make sure that the members of our community that would otherwise be disadvantaged continue to survive and thrive with their own people, supporting them.
I mean, that's why there's like social programs. It's like in case you have, I guess, like kind of like no one, there's still something that can help you, right?
Yeah, we are a social species. We're supposed to ask each other for help.
Yeah,
that's why it works.
Yeah. For me,
so we have so we like community getting together. So we have the common stuff. I mean, common characteristics, so that it's more easier to come together and realize what is important to like solve the problem.
Yeah, like everyone comes together to solve problems. That'd be good. I mean, that's awesome that we do that.
Now we just need to do it for like bigger groups, like politics.
Yeah, something else that I want to bring up for housing is that like most times like there's only one step in a garage, but like in the front, like the front door, there's probably like a lot of different steps. Sometimes there's like 6, sometimes there's like 10, but like the garage always has at least one. And I guess that's where I always have to go, the garage or in the backyard. It just depends on like how the house is.
Yeah, and that's not even touching on like the internal accessibility of the house. Like my room, wouldn't know it from this angle, but my room is the most inconvenient spot in the house, because it's in a hallway and there's a corner right next to my room, so I have to get through the tight corner and then immediately turn into my room at like 2 tight angles in a row. There are scuff marks in the doorway in the hallway for a reason.
Same. Yeah, like I guess like in the interior, like for like relatives' house, you don't really need it, make it accessible. So lots of things are in the way. I can't go like certain places because there's not enough room.
Yeah, the hallway is a little bit tight for me when I turn, but when I like hit the wall at my house or something, it's still okay, normal. But then when I go to my relative house and they have like the new house and everything, the hallway is tight, and I didn't want to go fast because I don't want to destroy the house.
And that's not to mention houses that have stairs in them, or the worst thing is houses that have different levels but only by like a step or two.
Oh my gosh.
So the entrance, like the foyer, is like on one level and then there's a step down into the living room. We used to have that. We got rid of it, thank God. But we used to have that, and I don't even know why we had that in the first place, because my entire family struggled with it because they would constantly trip over that step because they forgot it was there. So you don't even have to be disabled for that to be a bad idea. I don't know why we even have that.
You know where it's about like how the design, how they make that, because it's more like to make you feel like you're in a different place. But then an architect design that forget that the safety for the people, like not even disabled, for normal people, they just got tripped, like you said. So that's really bad.
I think it does look nice sometimes when you step into a new place. Like, this is refreshing. Like I guess like when there's like a dining room that has lots of lighting, it's nice to feel like you're in a different place.
Yeah. But so it's aesthetic. Can I mention that like my childhood home growing up has both of these features: internal stairs and a single step leading from like the living room to the dining room. This is a pretty, middle class suburban expensive house in San Diego. So it's like, of course it's got those features. But what's funny about the internal step is that, yeah, I did trip over that all the time as a child. And the internal staircase from the first story to the second is narrow in the in the dimension, which makes the steps very short, like very hard to get a foothold onto. Relatively speaking, like relative to like steps you might encounter in a recently constructed like public building somewhere. So that is to say, best believe that when we were small and uncoordinated, my siblings and I were falling down those stairs every so often. Fun times. There's a skylight right above it, so it's usually well lit, but not at night. So you better have a good idea of like where those steps end.
You better have some light in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some fairy lights along the railing or something.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Like movie theater lights.
Yeah, it's good, like the light on the floor or everything.
Yeah. In my house, I haven't been upstairs for years, to be honest. So my entire life is downstairs. But like there's nothing upstairs anyways. It's just more rooms. That's it.
Yeah, whenever we visit our friend's house in Massachusetts, I can't bring my normal chair with me, not just because it's inaccessible, but also because I don't want to risk the plane destroying it. So I end up going in my manual chair, and we don't really need to do the whole ramp thing with the manual chair because we can just get my dad and their dad to lift me up the steps. Pretty inconvenient, but it works. But the thing is, I've never been to their second floor because the flight of stairs is long enough that it'd be incredibly dangerous to transport me up and down from there. And by the way, they've moved like 3 times, and every single one of their houses have had a huge flight of stairs. And first house, I was able to get between the first level, second level, and the basement with relative ease because I could still walk. I just kind of had to baby crawl up and down the stairs, and it took forever. So that kid thing where you run up and down the stairs for fun. By the time I got back up, they would already be running back down again. It was horrible. And their second house, they had this really nice kind of grand staircase going up to the second floor, kind of curved a bit. Absolutely gorgeous, but also really hard to get up and down. I have been up on that second floor a grand total of like 3 times for the whole time they had that house. And then comes along their third house. I've never been up to that second floor at any point in my life, and I'm not going to because I just cannot get up there. And unfortunately, the good bathroom is up there. I have to use the bathroom on the first floor, which doubles as the laundry room, and it is also very narrow. So it makes it incredibly difficult to stay there as a guest, but I do love them, so I will stay in their house if we are staying there, but it's incredibly inconvenient. So
yeah, it's still worth it. All that
worth it. I'll kick their ass in Mario Kart for the week, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I guess you're talking about being in a minor show. the manual chair. Like I don't like being a manual chair to be honest, because I don't know, it feels like it takes away my freedom. It's like, oh, I want to go over there. Hey, I'm gonna go over there. So you have to constantly ask, like, I want to go over there.
I haven't used my manual wheelchair for like years, not a year, because I didn't like the like have people control you, and not control you, but then you didn't have the choice to go up there. They just say, okay, you sit there and look. But with my wheelchair, I can run around the house. Like I have a dog, and I just run with the dog, and that's the freedom I love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I like too. Like I don't know. I sometimes like I kind of argue with my parents that I want to go over there for what? I just want to go over there. And that's really annoying.
Like, you want to be included and you want to be able to go where you want without, a whole lot of effort. But that's really hard when you're in a manual chair that you can't push yourself. By the way, this is also why I hate hospital wheelchairs. Because they are the worst fitting, most uncomfortable, most least intelligently designed in terms of independence, because they are made for someone else pushing you. They don't want you pushing yourself. Those wheelchairs are literally the worst. And I hate them.
Can we talk about, I guess, like the airport wheelchairs and how those are uncomfortable?
Oh god, those things are so rickety and uncomfortable. They feel like they'll fall apart on you at any moment.
Yeah, there's always like two wheelchairs. One wheelchair that's like metal, that's blue, and it's not comfortable at all. And there's the other wheelchair that's that's kind of foldable. I hate being in the blue like metal one. It's so uncomfortable. Like I don't know, I can't even lay down like flat, like in a comfortable position. I also have to have pillows.
Oh, that's nothing compared to the chair they used to transfer you onto the plane.
Yeah, that one.
The aisle chair. Those things feel like death traps. They feel like the sort of thing you would see in a horror movie about a psych ward. By the way, any horror movie with a psych ward, any good one about a psych ward, would focus on how the psych ward actually sucks and how it's not the people in there that are scary, but the institution itself. Because I mean, it does suck. It does help some people, granted. But it's
not the most helpful for everyone.
It can be a very demeaning and dehumanizing experience, especially because development in the field of psychiatry and mental health is kind of far behind. And because of that, a lot of psych wards aren't necessarily the best and aren't necessarily a good solution for everyone who might need mental health services. They do definitely help some people, but like it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all type of answer.
Yeah.
And it is not a grippy sock vacation. Stop making that joke. I swear to God. I've been seeing that joke all over Twitter where people are like, I want to take a grippy sock vacation in a psych ward. No, you don't. They will drug you against your will if you are non-compliant. You do not want a grippy sock vacation in a psych ward because it's not a vacation. And grippy socks are incredibly uncomfortable. I don't know why you would willingly put that on your feet.
Yeah, somehow we're talking about psych wards.
Well, this whole
psych wards
podcast
themselves can be inaccessible. There's universal design in there.
Yeah, and that's like we can talk as well, like, and we don't have time to, but like we could talk as well about like how like disparities and insufficiencies in universal design like stack on top of one another. So like societies poorly designed to accommodate people with like autism, let's say. So historically, people with autism have been sent to bad psych wards in order to try and help them, which are themselves not universally designed. If those self-same autistic people have like mobility impairments or don't communicate in the fashion that the people running the place are used to, these kinds of things, it's all over the place. It's like I talk about politics like it's a big spider web, and it is. But then universal design and pursuant thereof is a spider web within a spider web.
Yeah, and there are spider webs within those spider webs that are in the spider webs because, in my opinion, we haven't touched on this yet, but in my opinion, universal design is more than just ramps and elevators. It's also about the mental environment that you can find yourself being put in. Like, are there rooms, quiet rooms that you can go to that have low lighting and block out noise so that you can recover from sensory overload? Is there a ban on scented products for people who get triggered into migraines because of scented products? Are there places for people to rest if they have chronic fatigue, right? It's more than just ramps and elevators. It's the concept of accessibility implemented wherever possible. And I think that's something that's easy to forget about. And that's exactly why psych wards are not the most accessible environments, because, you're treated more like a problem to fix than a human being to help. And that is a detrimental and inaccessible mental environment to be forced into, or even voluntarily placed into. So there's multiple facets to universal design in of itself. So it's a spider web within a spider web within a spider web of all these different concepts and ideas.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we were talking about universal design, like in housing, and then we talked about wheelchairs, and we talk about airports, and we talk about psych wards. Everything connects. Everything is connected in a way, right?
Yeah, and even hospitals. A lot of hospitals don't have access to interpreters for deaf people. So deaf people go to the hospital because they need help, and then they can't receive treatment because nobody understands them, and they're refusing to work with them and assuming that they can't think for themselves because they can't speak English. There's so many layers to it.
So many layers. I wish we had more time, a lot more time.
We probably should have talked less about some things. I kind of derailed us here and there.
But like housing accessibility is important, airport accessibility is important, wheelchair accessibility is important, everything's important. But before we end it, does anyone have any last words before I make the announcements?
This is going to keep happening. Sorry, Will, go.
I just wish they have to do something with the airplane where it's accessible. To go just drive your chair up there. But I feel like there's the safety issue where the plane go up, you might roll somewhere, but I think there should be a lock for the wheelchair or something like that.
Yeah, have something better than, I guess, the death trap.
There's actually an organization called All Wheels Up that is working on developing a safe way for wheelchairs and power wheelchairs to roll directly onto the plane and be locked in. The current concept is to use tie downs like you see on the bus, but they're still workshopping it because they need to get it safety approved first before introducing the concept. And then there's the battle for making sure it's implemented on as many planes as possible. But there is an organization, All Wheels Up, working on that if you're interested.
Yeah. So William, do you have any last words?
Yeah, because I don't really like how to leave my wheelchair for the staff to bring up under the plane. Because there was time a few years ago, my wheelchair just didn't work after I got up the plane, out of the plane, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah. My wheelchair almost fell off the ramp thing that they use to load luggage. And we saw it happening from the plane window. We saw it slowly turning and tipping over the edge as they caught it. It was horrifying.
It was scary. Yeah. I feel the exact same thing.
Next time William, on Dragon Ball Z. Yeah.
What do I have to say?
Yeah.
No, nothing. We're I guess we're ending, right?
Yeah, we're wrapping up.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I think,
where's the ramp is literal.
yeah, where's the ramp?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Where
think
is the ramp?
where's the ramp? I think we can have like another whole episode about airport accessibility, traveling with wheelchairs, power chairs, because we all have that experience, right? I mean, not we all, but like
William's the odd one out here.
yeah.
You have.
Yeah, that's fun. Okay. So
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this
I
is
can
the end
talk
of our
about.
I'm gonna keep talking. So this is the end of our podcast. We talked about universal design, and we kind of talked about hashtag where's the ramp a lot, and that's really important. And we talked about how accessibility is all interconnected. Like you could talk about wheelchair accessibility, and you could talk about airport accessibility. Everything is interconnected. Our next club meeting will be on this Friday, March 18th, where we will talk about disability and Sac State and how they are interconnected. We post episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. on ksc.com. It's also on YouTube. Please check us out on our socials, blog series on ksc.com, and podcasts. We have our podcast and club meeting schedule up on social media as well. So if you want to keep track on that, look on our socials. And finally, if you missed anything or the previous episode and club meetings, check us out on YouTube where we post our recordings there at Dana at Sac State. Again, thank you so much. Bye, everyone. This is going to be the last hashtag where's the ramp.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Where's the ramp?
Where's the ramp?
Where's the ramp?
Good podcasting. You're listening to Through Our Lens with the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance at Sacramento State, a club, organization, whatever, for disabled students, staff, and their allies to discuss and educate each other about disability-related topics, advocate on behalf of disabled students and the community, and to hang out together and just be a community.
So we want to be more recognizable to Sac State. So please join the conversation by following and messaging us on Instagram at Dana at Sac State. It's DANA at Sac State.